Ever wondered what movies your dad really watched when no one was home? You're about to find out. And yeah, some of these explain a lot. You know that moment when your dad changes the channel real fast and mumbles something like,
Oh, I was just flipping through.
yeah, he wasn't flipping. He knew exactly what channel that was, and he waited for it. Because teenage dad? He was a little menace with a blockbuster card and zero supervision. So today, we're exposing the movies he pretended he didn't watch, but 100% watched. How do I know? Because I'm over 40, and I watch them too. Let's be honest. This movie was a rite of passage for reasons that had nothing to do with the plot.
Hi, Mr. Lombardo.
Your dad rented Wild Things under the guise of, I heard it's a good mystery. He even told the cashier it was for date night. There was no date, just him, some popcorn, and a scene so infamous it probably broke a few pause buttons. He'll swear it was a solid thriller, but everyone, and I mean everyone, knows he was there for that pool scene. And he watched it more than once. Already cringing because your dad 100% saw this? Hit that like button and subscribe for more stuff he hoped you'd never find out. If Wild Things was an appetizer, this next movie was a full-blown 5-course buffet of, I swear it's just a psychological drama. Sharon Stone crossed her legs once, and every teenage boy entered a new era. Your dad will hit you with the, oh, that movie. Yeah, it was intense. No, sir. That was spiritual trauma disguised as film noir. He watched it muted. He studied that interrogation scene like he was prepping for a final exam. He calls it a thriller. We call it what it was. The most paused moment in 90s cable TV history. And if that was cinema, wait until you see what he called a romance. Nothing says romantic like step-sibling manipulation and eyeliner that could cut glass. This movie had classical music, prep schools, and sexual tension so thick it needed its own soundtrack. Your dad rented this one for date night too. But let's be real. The only reason this made it to his shelf was that escalator kiss. And maybe the lip gloss. He'll claim he doesn't remember this movie. But if you play the first 10 seconds of that Sarah Michelle Gellar scene, his eyes will twitch. Now let's move from elite private schools to baked goods. This was the movie that said, yes, teenage boys are that weird. And your dad? He watched it with pride. He laughed. He rewound. He pretended he didn't understand the pie scene. But trust me, he understood everything. This wasn't a coming-of-age comedy. This was chaotic education in a DVD case. He'll tell you it was just silly teen humor, but deep down, he was Jim, and it changed him. And speaking of movies that change people, this next one had masks, cults, and Tom Cruise looking deeply confused. This was supposed to be high art, but somehow your dad watched it a little too intently. He called it Kubrickian. He used the phrase, interesting cinematography. That's code for, I watched the whole thing waiting for a plot, but stayed for the masked orgy. Let's be honest, he didn't understand a single thing. But he watched it twice, just to be sure. Now let's go back to the original. We're not supposed to be watching this movie. Your dad says this was just a goofy comedy. It was softcore wrapped in a fart joke. This movie was every teenage boy's intro to questionable decision-making. It wasn't funny. No one laughed. They just sat there, absorbing the weirdest parts of 80s culture in silence. Your dad didn't just watch Porky's. He quoted it. And that's how you know it hit deep. Now let's talk about the movie where Tom Cruise lost more than just his innocence. Sure, he danced in his underwear, but your dad stayed for the call girl in the train scene. This wasn't just about rebellion. This was about a teenager running a full escort business from his parents' house, and your dad called it an entrepreneurial classic. Sir, he'll say he remembers the music, but really, it was Rebecca De Mornay in that subway car that lived in his mind rent-free. And speaking of plot, the next movie didn't even pretend to have one. This movie said, what if stripping was cinema? And somehow, your dad bought the DVD. He told your mom it was an accident. He said the cover looked like Flashdance. But let's be real, this was a late-night, volume-turned-low kind of experience. The reviews were brutal. The acting was worse. But your dad watched it all with snacks. Now let's shift from neon chaos to poolside trauma. The red bikini, the slow motion, the universal awakening. This movie had school drama, stoners, and one scene that rewired teenage brains. Your dad doesn't remember the plot, but he remembers that scene so vividly it might be his brain's screensaver. You thought it was a teen comedy. He knew it was something else entirely. Now for the movie that made groceries weird forever. This movie was food play, emotional damage, and way too many close-ups. Kim Basinger, Mickey Rourke, ice cubes. It was the 80s. Everything was glossy and slightly unhinged. Your dad didn't understand a single relationship dynamic, but he watched every single second. He said it was artsy, but this wasn't a film. This was a neon fever dream. So next time your dad rolls his eyes at what you watch, remind him he survived his teens watching strip teases, step-sibling love triangles, and sexy thrillers labeled as dramas. He's got no moral high ground here. Hit that like, smash subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what movie do you know your dad watched, but swears he didn't? No judgment. We've all been there.